PRS, I think you've created a problem for yourself. This is the McCarty 594 SE version, and I'll just tell you right off the bat, it's good. It's really good, especially for the price point that it comes in, and that's under $1,000 in the US. I've had the privilege of playing the S2 version of this guitar. It was a double cut, so go check out that video when you get a chance. And I can tell you that this is just as enjoyable of an experience. They kind of fill the same role in your guitar arsenal wants and needs, and I don't really have an answer to, is it worth it to go to that S2 level? So let's just go through each part of the guitar. The neck, as far as feel, this is the pattern vintage cut. It's a thick feeling neck compared to the core necks I've played, the S2 necks that I've played. It feels very similar. Specs on the website have them almost exactly the same or very close. It feels great. The fret edges feel really, really nice. It's bound beautifully. It's comfortable. It's very different than my Silver Sky, obviously. That's a totally different neck. But as far as that vintage, Les Paul-ish kind of vibe with necks goes, if you like that, you're gonna like this. So if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the hardware on here to include this bridge is either shared with the S2 or the exact same parts that go on the S2. The switches, the knobs, everything is really tight. It feels as it should. Tuners are great. They don't have the brass pieces on the actual poles. Up for debate as to whether or not that matters. Of course, tuners can be easily swapped out. We have two humbuckers. And this is where you're gonna get into the biggest differences between all of these lines. But you can solve that problem no matter what guitar you're in, whether it's an S2 or an SE. You can get the core model pickups now and put them in these guitars, thus, again, kind of negating, I don't know, maybe you don't need that S2 lineup, I'm not sure. Yes, you can do the single coil-ish thing by pushing and pulling these pots right here for just a multitude of combinations and tones. So aesthetically, they look really cool. They look like you would expect them to look. You can't really tell, but this carve on the top is very, very subtle. And it's rounded. Now, if you've ever played an S2 version of the McCarty 594, you know it's a much harder cut, much harder lines. That gives a very different appearance and different feel to the guitar, so much so that I have a hard time even comparing these guitars because the top carve on the SE, the S2, and the core is drastically different between all three of those guitars. And it really changes the look and feel of the instrument. It just does. So I do have one complaint, and it's just a personal preference. This lower bout right here sits in a weird spot. When I play this guitar sitting down, the guitar shifts over here. If you put that lower bout over your right thigh, the guitar just sits, for me, a little bit too far this way. I would prefer it to be somewhere over here. And that is just the nature of Les Pauls. These guitars, they feel weird to me playing sitting down. That is not a deal breaker. And in fact, I would argue, if you can do it, standing up and playing more often is better because it's just a completely different experience. And you know, sometimes you get something worked out while you're sitting, you go stand up and play, it's a different ballgame. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I really don't know what this means for the S2 line. Do you keep that line going? I don't have sales figures. I have no idea how the sales of SE models compared to S2 models, which compared to core models. My assumption is that they probably sell a lot more of these because it's a much more achievable price point for all of us. I mean, let's be honest, paying $4,000 to $5,000 for a guitar, it's not something everybody can do. It's not something everyone is willing to do, even if they're able to, because for most of us and many of us, these are tools, especially in the SE and the S2 line. These are player guitars. These are guitars that you're gonna take out and you're going to play. Not that you don't care about them, but it's not a $5,000 museum piece. Now, of course, there are people who take those core models and they play them. But I mean, it's arguably, that's kind of a risk maybe you don't need to take with that kind of money. Hey, if you have the money and you want to, go for it by all means. I mean, I'm not gonna stop you. But for the rest of us, I think the SE versus S2 conversation is a really interesting one to have, because while the S2 is made in America, it is almost double the price, does come with different pickups. I don't know, is it really worth it now? Because they make these guitars really well. And when you can throw in pickups from the core model, I'm not sure where you go from there. You tell me, would you still buy an S2? Do you think the SE is the way to go? Do you say, you know what, never mind those two, I'm gonna save my money for an extra couple years and just go for it and get that core model? I don't know. I only have a Silver Sky that I own, so I'm in a different category as far as PRS players, but I do want to get a double humbucker guitar from them, so help me make that decision. I don't know. This actually complicates it a little bit for me, because I was set on the S2 as my entry point into the McCarty lineup, but this has got me thinking twice. So what do I do? Which one do I buy? Which one would you buy?